What is up everyone? Today we're taking a look at the MSI QB2. This is a small form factor, energy efficient Kaby Lake PC. Small form factor PCs are incredibly versatile. Their compact size makes them perfect for all sorts of computing tasks in tight spaces where low energy, very capable machines are needed. You can squeeze them pretty much anywhere. The hardware may be a little overkill for a top-notch recipe research machine, but nobody can deny that one of these in the kitchen is awesome. A more common and practical use could be the central hub of your entertainment setup, with a shed load of grunt under the bonnet to push pixels to a 4K TV and send multi-channel audio to your beastly home theatre sound system all via HDMI. This is the perfect little box to serve all your home media consumption needs. The beauty of using a real PC as opposed to using a dedicated media player is the lack of feature sacrifice. There's a fully blown Windows 10 PC crammed into this tiny box, so any feature that you could possibly need is at your fingertips. Steam home sharing, desktop web browsing, integration with your local media or media streaming services in whichever way you want without any compromise, it's all there.
That's not possible, is it? Okay.
So let's take a look at the QB2 in greater detail. At just under 1.3 inches tall, this thing makes a standard mid-tower look like an elephant. The design is clean and simple. I have the white version, but this is also available in black. The white is seriously white. Comparing this machine to other white items around my office shows off the difference instantly. The casing is plastic, but it has a nice matte finish and it feels totally solid. I feel that too many pieces of tech are glossy, and it's nice to know that this won't collect fingerprints and it's one less thing to wipe down. The top of the case shows off the MSI logo as well as the power button on the bottom left. I'm not too sure why the power button has been given such a large and bold design. After all, it's a button that you only press once every use, and being a low energy system, I assume that in most scenarios the majority of users will leave this system in sleep mode, meaning that the power button will only ever need to be used once in a blue moon, but I am glad that MSI chose to use a proper physical button as opposed to those awful gimmicky heat sensitive buttons. On the front, we've got a standard USB 3.1 Type A port, a new USB 3.1 Type C port, which is nice to see, as well as standard 3.5mm audio in and out jacks for microphone and headphones. There's also a tiny drive activity LED on the front panel, which I personally find a nice welcome. Swinging around to the right hand side, there's a Kensington lock handy for commercial settings or the office, because this thing is very easily pocketable. On the back, we find the remainder of the ports. From left to right, we have a 19-volt power supply input. This tiny machine, of course, needs an external brick. Thankfully, it's very compact. Next up is HDMI output, capable of driving 4K displays, mini DisplayPort, gigabit Ethernet driven by the Realtek RTL8111H, and finally, two USB 3.1 Type A ports. You may have also noticed the small vent at the top for the internal cooling fan. On the bottom is where a surprising amount of the magic happens. As well as the 4 anti-slip rubber feet, you may notice these 2 small holes. This PC comes with a little secret weapon up its sleeve. Here you see the back of a standard PC monitor, and if you look a little closer, I've screwed the included plate to the VESA mount, and this allows me to simply pop the QB2 on the back of my monitor. With a bit of cable tidying, this essentially turns your standard PC monitor into an all-in-one PC, which is very, very cool. There's no limit to where you can install this thing. VESA compatibility is massively welcome here. My inner geek can't take it much longer. I am dying to pop this thing open and have a look. My particular sample is rocking an Intel Core i3 7100U clocked at 2.4 GHz. This is a dual-core, 4-thread CPU with a TDP of just 15 watts. This machine has 4 GB of 2133 MHz DDR4 RAM installed, but it will support up to a whopping 32 GB with two 16 GB SODIMMs installed. For storage, we have a 120GB M.2 SATA SSD, which of course is upgradable by yanking it out and popping in a larger one. We also have the option of adding a second drive. Wait, what? This thing is tiny. Where the heck is that going to go? Well, those of you with keen eyes may have noticed during the unboxing that there were a few extra bits and bobs included. This replacement bottom plate is slightly taller than the standard bottom that we removed a minute ago, but it gives us so much more. It shares the same rubber feet and VESA mount compatibility, so none of that stuff is sacrificed, but in addition, it allows us to install a standard 2.5-inch drive in the bottom of the machine. This can of course be a hard drive, hybrid drive, or an SSD. Popping the tiny SATA data and power cables onto my drive, slotting it in, flipping it round and securing it into place with the 4 included screws, we now have a system with expanded storage. Both connectors are right there on the motherboard, and it's just a case of popping it back together. After the drive install, we're looking at a height of just under 1.7 inches, a tiny increase for a lot more storage and functionality. The upgradability of RAM, M.2 storage, as well as the option to add an entirely separate drive is tremendous to see on such a tiny computer. Oh, by the way, this thing also packs in Intel dual band wireless AC for all your wireless communication needs. I got a bit distracted by all the other cool stuff. Being very power efficient is one of the biggest selling points of a small form factor PC. So let's have a little test out and see exactly how much power this thing uses. Currently, I've got the machine powered off and connected to an outlet, and you can see it is drawing about 1 watt. It's fluctuating between 0.9 and 1 watt while the machine is completely off. So let's power it on and see what it does when we sit idle at the desktop. With the system running completely idle, just sitting on the desktop, we are drawing a tiny 5 watts from the wall. It's going up a little bit, but it's also dipping, and it keeps staying around 5 watts, which is incredible, bearing in mind that we do have a keyboard and mouse connected to the system as well. To test max power consumption, we're using Prime 95 large FFTs to suck as much juice from the wall as possible. Let's see what it does. Pegging the CPU to a 100% usage, we are drawing only 25 watts from the wall, between 25 and 26 watts at all times, which is incredible. The fan has spun up a little bit, and if I just be quiet for a second, you can probably hear the faint sound of this fan, but my system over here is in fact more audible than this one right now because the room is very hot. But you may be able to hear a slight amount of fan noise, but it really is nothing. And of course, that fan noise and that power reading is based on a very synthetic test. This is not real world whatsoever. Your CPU is never going to be constantly pegged to 100% and cramming itself, squeezing as much juice from the wall as possible. It's just never going to happen for the use case scenarios of a little system like this. So all in all, incredibly impressive. This is not going to impact your electricity bill whatsoever, and it means that you can pretty much put this thing anywhere, on any power supply, any kind of extension lead. It is really not a concern, which is great. The QB2 is my kind of product. It seriously delivers. For me, in a home environment, this is an ideal media center PC, especially for Steam home streaming, which works flawlessly on this hardware. It really does scream in a media cabinet. But that's the beauty of a system like this. Everyone's different, and the versatility of this form factor allows it to suit many tasks for all sorts of different people in all sorts of different settings. If you'd like to check out more about this system, take a look at the various links in the video description. I'd like to say a massive thanks to MSI for giving me the opportunity to check out this lovely bit of kit. I'm seriously gutted that I've got to give it back. I hope you've all enjoyed my video, and until the next time, thank you very much for watching.